Richard Ferruccio. Welcome.
Good evening, Madam Chairman. Chairwoman, I should say. Sorry. Members of the committee. My name is Richard Ferruccio. I'm the president of the Rhode Island Brotherhood of Correctional Officers. I am honored to be able to speak to you today about this very important piece of legislation. I'm also a correctional officer with almost 38 years experience at the Department of Corrections. And my testimony today will be based on my years of experience as a correctional officer and will be brief. This legislation before you is extremely dangerous, and we believe strongly will jeopardize the safety and the security of the inmates at the Department of Corrections and the correctional line staff, most of whom I represent. Of the 1,000 bills submitted up for discussion this session, this bill, in my opinion, is the most dangerous. This legislation would significantly alter the discipline process at the Rhode Island Department of Corrections. And so you understand the discipline process is very similar to the criminal laws of the state of Rhode Island. This legislation would reduce the penalty for violations of the Department of Corrections discipline policy. It also states that that no member of a vulnerable population shall be placed in disciplinary confinement. What they're calling a vulnerable population is, and it would set anyone under the age of 22, over the age of 55, they would basically get a get out of jail card. They couldn't go to segregation or disciplinary confinement, as it's termed. Imagine in the Rhode Island communities if that we didn't hold those under 22 or over the age of 55 accountable for breaking the law. We'd have chaos, and that's what we would have with the ACI. Ironically, if these changes were ever enacted, I can tell you that the Brotherhood would really push to criminally charge every inmate for violation of the Department of Corrections rules, since almost every rule, every discipline violation has a corresponding state law that matches up to it. Stealing, threatening, possession of illegal drugs, assault. So what you could have, instead of someone getting 20 days of disciplinary confinement, you could actually see somebody potentially getting an additional 2 years. These are tools. These are tools that the corrections officers use and the corrections department use to manage our facilities. As I stated, very dangerous legislation. I think it's poorly conceived, and I think it will jeopardize safety. I've said it a number of times, the Department of Corrections, while not perfect, is one of the best run Department of Corrections in the country, and our safety record more than supports that statement. I work with an incredible group of men and women who put their lives on the line every day in the name of public safety. You've all seen our tagline, representing those that work the toughest beat in the state. Rhode Island correctional officers earned that because in the 1970s and 80s, the ACI was a very different place than it is today. And you heard that from the director. It's changed in the last 5 years. It's changed in the last 6 years. Not because back in the 70s and 80s that we didn't have a good group of corrections officers, but what we had then was no discipline. There was no control over the ACI. The staff didn't have tools, basically, to effectively manage their facilities. The DOC discipline process is one of the most important tools that corrections has right now. And like I said, it's a very different place. Other thing that I have an issue with, that this legislation will invalidate the tremendous work of the 2016 Commission on the Use of Solitary Confinement. That commission spent an extraordinary amount of time to develop the discipline process that we use today, and that would pretty much be eliminated by this law. The commission created in 2016 was a result of similar hearings that you see today. We also had to deal with the problems of witnesses lying and attempting to mislead the commission with false testimony. We held 10 different hearing dates over 9 months, and some of those hearings went until midnight. I was there. I was a member of it. Those were long, drawn-out, tough nights. But we heard from a number of subject matter experts on areas surrounding corrections law and policy. We had physicians, psychiatrists, clinical psychologists, social workers, basically officials within every relevant field at the Department of Corrections. And I stated we heard testimony from inmates that lied. And this commission, this committee actually heard from a couple of those witnesses several years ago. One of them, Jose Davila-Mosa. I spell it out in the paperwork that I presented. I won't get into it now, but if you get an opportunity, please take a look at it. I also provided this committee with some facts regarding the criminal history of some of the inmates that testified in the House Finance hearing. A number of people came in, thought it was appropriate to testify at the House Finance hearing about the solitary confinement bill. That same group, along with many others, testified in judiciary. I will provide you a copy of every inmate's criminal history and their discipline record, so you can basically get to the facts of what you hear today. I'm going to jump right ahead to the end so that I can take any questions you might have. I could go basically line by line what I think is wrong with this legislation to address the concerns, but it would take probably an hour, and I don't want Senator Coyne throwing me out of this room. But I'll just do one line. It's line A. And the first line, I think, first line basically says it all. It's the policy of the state of Rhode Island that the Department of Corrections and the facility it operates maintain safe, secure housing for all inmates. This whole piece of legislation contradicts that first line. Every Rhode Island correctional officer and professional I've spoken to agrees with that. So I'll take any questions you might have.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions of this witness?